The 22nd of June, 1941. With 134 divisions at full fighting strength and 73 additional divisions positioned for deployment, Nazi Germany, under the codename Operation Barbarossa, launches the invasion of the Soviet Union, its former ally, in the war against Poland. Hitler sees the campaign as a crucial step in his vision of securing Lebensraum, meaning living space, for the German people, while also fulfilling his goal of destroying communism, which he deeply despises. As the German army advances deep into Soviet territory, SS and police units follow closely behind. Among the first to arrive are the Einsatzgruppen, the Nazi mobile death squads. Their mission is clear: to cleanse the population of Jews, communists, partisans, and anyone deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime. On the 1st of July 1941, however, about 180 members of the Wehrmacht, the German armed forces, are captured by soldiers of the Red Army near the village of Broniki in western Ukraine. When the area is recaptured by the Germans the next day, they discover 153 dead bodies, most of which show signs of having been brutally massacred and mutilated. This atrocity, committed by the Red Army against German prisoners of war, becomes known as the Broniki Massacre. After Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany on the 30th of January 1933, he immediately began preparing Germany for war. One of his first actions was to rebuild and expand the German military, which had been significantly restricted by the Treaty of Versailles. By 1935, he openly defied the treaty by reintroducing conscription and increasing the size of the army. Additionally, Hitler established the Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, and expanded the navy, significantly boosting Germany's military capabilities. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. The early stages of the war saw rapid German advances in Europe, with the fall of Poland, the invasion of France, and the evacuation of British forces from Dunkirk in 1940. Following the successful campaign in France, Hitler set his sights on the Soviet Union. The German invasion of the Soviet Union began on Sunday, the 22nd of June, 1941. For Nazi Germany, this attack was not an ordinary military operation. The war against the Soviet Union was a war of annihilation between German fascism and Soviet communism, a racial war between German Aryans and subhuman Slavs and Jews. In the first days of Operation Barbarossa, Nazi brutality became immediately evident. As German forces pushed deep into the Soviet Union, the SS and Einsatzgruppen followed closely behind, tasked with executing Hitler's racial policies. Entire villages were set ablaze, and thousands of civilians, mainly Jews, communists, and suspected partisans, were rounded up and shot without trial. In places like Lithuania and Ukraine, local collaborators sometimes assisted, but it was the German Einsatzgruppen who orchestrated the mass killings. The German military participated in these crimes. By the end of June 1941, tens of thousands of Soviet citizens had already been murdered. These atrocities were not isolated incidents, but systematic acts of terror aimed at eradicating entire populations. The Nazis viewed the Soviet people as racially inferior and treated them with extreme violence from the very start. The brutality of German actions would later fuel acts of retaliation, as Soviet forces and partisans sought to avenge the suffering inflicted upon their people. One such act of retaliation took place in the summer of 1941, during the German advance through Ukraine, and this event unfolded amidst the chaos of the German invasion and intense Soviet resistance. On the 29th of June 1941, the German 25th Infantry Division entered Rovno, a key Ukrainian town and transportation hub. Their task was to relieve the 13th Panzer Division and secure the area against potential threats from the south, east, and northeast. However, the situation quickly became unstable as Soviet forces retreating towards the southeast broke through the road between the towns of Dubno and Rovno, creating a new threat from the west. To stabilize the front, the German High Command ordered additional security operations. On the 30th of June, German commanders instructed their troops to strengthen their hold east of Rovno. One unit, the 119th Infantry Regiment, was tasked with securing the eastern approach. Simultaneously, a separate battalion was ordered to advance northeast towards the town of Klevan to prevent further Soviet breakthroughs. This dangerous assignment was given to Hauptmann Dr. Keller and his battalion from the 35th Infantry Regiment. The next morning, on the 1st of July 1941, at precisely 6 a.m., Hauptmann Keller's battalion began its advance along the road between Klevan and the small village of Broniki. Despite determined Soviet resistance and heavy artillery fire, the German soldiers managed to push forward. By around 9 a.m., they had reached a position roughly 1.5 kilometers east of a key road junction northeast of Klevan. However, at this point, Hauptmann Keller ordered his men to fall back and establish a defensive line on higher ground northeast of Broniki. As the Germans attempted to withdraw and reorganize, Soviet forces launched a fierce counterattack. 2 Soviet infantry battalions, supported by 15 tanks, struck from the wooded area northwest of the village of Orzhev. The Soviet assault targeted the right flank of Keller's battalion, which was being defended by the 7th Company. The attack quickly broke through the German lines, outflanking them and pushing through the villages of Adamkovsky and Grabov, eventually cutting off the battalion's rear and severing their connection to the main German forces. Completely surrounded and with their ammunition depleted, approximately 180 German soldiers, mostly from Keller's battalion, were captured. Among them were also soldiers from the 119th Infantry Regiment and artillery units. The German survivors later described what happened next as one of the most brutal episodes of the early war. On the 2nd of July 1941, as German forces counterattacked and reclaimed the ground near Broniki, they discovered the bodies of 153 of their comrades. Nearby, another 12 corpses, believed to be officers, were found lying roughly 200 meters away. 7 men from the battalion managed to escape the massacre and later provided testimonies about the events. According to their accounts, the Soviet troops showed no mercy, and the wounded Germans were executed immediately, shot with pistols or rifles, beaten with rifle butts, or stabbed with bayonets. The corpses bore clear signs of this cruel treatment. The remaining prisoners were stripped of their uniforms, boots, and personal belongings, such as rings and watches. Any prisoner who hesitated or resisted was shot or beaten to death on the spot. The surviving German soldiers described how around 170 to 200 prisoners were herded into a nearby clover field. About 20 men, identified as officers or non-commissioned officers by their rank insignia, were tied up and separated from the others. A Soviet officer or political commissar reportedly gave a speech to his troops, after which he executed 3 German prisoners himself. This triggered a brutal mass shooting of the remaining prisoners. Even though many of the naked Germans attempted to flee, they were gunned down by machine guns, rifles, and even artillery fire. Only a handful managed to escape and return to German lines, their accounts offering a chilling insight into the scale and savagery of the massacre. But Broniki was not an isolated case. Similar reports soon surfaced from other parts of the front, reinforcing the belief among the German commanders that Soviet forces, confronted with the horrors unleashed by the Nazi invasion, had adopted a strategy of ruthless retaliation. According to intelligence at the time, some Soviet units even issued orders promising soldiers a 3-day leave pass, decorations, and promotions for every 20 German soldiers killed. The front lines had become a brutal, merciless battleground where neither side expected nor gave any quarter. This growing atmosphere of total war was soon officially echoed at the highest level of Soviet leadership. On the 6th of November 1941, deep beneath Moscow in the Mayakovsky metro station, Joseph Stalin delivered a fiery speech to the Moscow Soviets, party officials, and military leaders. In it, he declared, "If the Germans want a war of extermination, they shall have it. From now on, it will be the task of the peoples of the Soviet Union, the task of the fighters, commanders, and political officials of our army and navy, to wipe out all Germans who have entered the territory of our homeland as occupiers, down to the last man. No mercy for the German occupiers. Death to the German occupiers. It is necessary to wipe out all German occupiers, down to the last man." The Second World War in Europe ended on the 8th of May 1945 with Nazi Germany's unconditional surrender. By that time, over 5 million German soldiers had died, along with an estimated 2 million German civilians. Most of them perished not defending their homeland, but serving Adolf Hitler's twisted ambitions, fighting for racial supremacy, territorial conquest, and a senseless war. In the end, instead of securing Lebensraum in the east, Germany was left in ruins, divided and devastated, facing the consequences of Hitler's decisions for decades to come. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.